Welcome. My name is Jill Carlson. This is Atheist Talk. I'm a member of the Board of Directors of Minnesota Atheists. Joined with me today for the program is Kevin Watson. Kevin is representing the Humanist Institute, and I'm going to be introducing a talk with Kevin about his work at the Humanist Institute and the ongoing projects that are occurring at the facility. Kevin is a representative of a local organization, St. Paul, Minnesota. So welcome, Kevin, and tell me a little bit about what is the Humanist Institute and what is your connection and your role at the organization?
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for having me. The Humanist Institute is an organization that actually has been around since 1984, and our goal is to educate students about humanist philosophy and train future leaders for the humanist movement. So we've our entire history, we've been a collaboration of multiple humanist organizations representing kind of a big tent humanism. So the idea being, from our very inception, we've been a partnership between the American Humanist Association, the Unitarian Universalist Association, the Society for Humanistic Judaism, and the American Ethical Union. So kind of those were the four main organizations that have been with us from our founding, and various other ones have been a part of us since. So, and the goal being that we recognized early on in the humanist movement in the United States that there wasn't a way to train leaders. You know, we didn't have strong places in seminaries for everyone to go. We didn't have strong programs to create those kind of leaders that we needed.
So you mentioned that you assist or facilitate work with students. Mm-hmm. Can someone participate at the Humanist Institute and take classes for credit? How does that work?
Yes, so we are now, we have a partnership actually with the Saybrook University in San Francisco. So what happens is our program is about to relaunch in a new format because we were kind of hearing feedback that we wanted people to be able to take part, more and more people to take part. So our new format is that we have 3 sessions where you have 9 days that you come and live and learn together for 9 days. And you do that in September, and then you come back again in March, and then you come back again in September, and then you're done. So that over the course of those 3 sessions, you do our program, and at the end of that program, you receive a certificate from our program saying that you're a graduate, if you've done all of the requirements, and then at that point, you can either be done and take your skills back to your local community, wherever it is, because we draw our students from a national and actually now international body. So we currently have a student from Norway that travels here to be in the program. We have people from various states, depending on the cohort class. But then after the institute's done, after you're done with that program, you can take that and you can actually use that as part of your certification process to become a Humanist Celebrant with a program called the Humanist Society, which is another American Humanist Association affiliate. We're an affiliate of the American Humanist Association. Or you can parlay that experience into being half done with a master's at Saybrook University in California. And the program there that you would land in would be in psychology and interdisciplinary studies.
Great.
So the nice thing about that is our agreement is if you've met all of our requirements, they will accept them as credits. So.
Great. So to enter the Humanist Institute, you need to have a bachelor's degree. And this would be considered graduate level courses.
Yes, it's definitely a graduate level program. One of our requirements is a bachelor's degree or some sort of equivalent. So we recognize that life experience is a part of that, but also just you need to demonstrate that you're able to study at the graduate level, because we want every student obviously to succeed that comes through our program.
You mentioned the language humanist celebrant. Talk to our audience about what is the role of a humanist celebrant and what kind of community role will they play once they've accomplished that level of credential?
Yeah, so the most traditional role that a humanist celebrant plays is performing humanist and non-theistic weddings, and I'm actually a certified humanist celebrant as well with the Humanist Society, and so that's kind of the more day-to-day work that or month-to-month work that a humanist celebrant will do, but they also do all sorts of kind of community rituals kind of for non-theists. So child namings or baby dedications are one sort of program that's done. They also, some will do memorial services as well, specifically for people that want that non-theistic celebration.
Great.
Or celebration of life is another term for it. Yep. So those are the three big ones. Another area is coming of age ceremonies, that sort of stuff. So depending on what people want and how that relationship is with the celebrant, and if they're kind of a freelance celebrant where they're just out in the world doing their thing on their own, or if they're paired with a community. So some people are kind of a almost like a community minister in a local community, or they're part of an American Humanist Association chapter or a local group, and then they're known in that group as being able to perform weddings and those sorts of things.
How would someone find a humanist celebrant if they're looking for someone to officiate a wedding or a dedication?
Yeah, so through the American Humanist Association, there's a group of affiliated organizations, and we're one, the Humanist Institute. So we have information on our website about that, and then also the Humanist Society would be the other organization to go to, and they have a really nice directory of state by state. You can look up who's credentialed through them.
I know the Humanist Institute mission is quite broad and expansive. One part of the mission is educating leaders. What other projects do the Humanist Institute sponsor or facilitate, either at that university level or in the community? Do they do public education or facilitate any discussions or dialogue? What other projects do they communicate with their public?
Yeah, so I would say that while our programming is really, really broad, the way it focuses is it's all based on educating people about humanist philosophy in a variety of ways. And the kind of different programming tracks that we have is this, what I would call intensive graduate level certificate program that's tuition based, and you come and you learn 3 times a year in a community. So it's kind of a low residency program where you come in person, you do work on your own in between. And then kind of the next sort of thing that we do, the next biggest thing we do is completely online courses. So we have the continuum of online humanist education, which is, or COE as we sometimes call it, and that's also on our website. And what we have there is we have a variety of free courses on things like humanist philosophy or humanist psychology, humanism and religion. We have a whole set of, and also just kind of an introduction to humanism in general. So that's one of our kind of outreach pieces for people that kind of land on that term and are wondering, what is that all about?
Yeah.
And then beyond that, we've started to develop and launch a series of paid courses. One of them is actually training to be a humanist celebrant. So that's an online course that you can go through to be part of your certification program. So if that's the one piece that you're looking for, you can kind of get that there. And we're developing a whole set of different topics from different organizations. And that's kind of how we've always been within the humanist community, is we partner with national atheist organizations, national humanist organizations, religious humanism, secular humanism. We've kind of always had that kind of broad spectrum approach and worked to do that. And another part of our programming is that we're also a part of the credentialing process for ethical culture leaders. So for them, and that's kind of that would be the equivalent of a minister or a community leader for them. So we've kind of always been that idea that we train leaders and do education in a lot of ways. And I would say one of our newest initiatives is somewhere in between. So we're trying to fill this role, or fill this kind of hole of having regional programming, where we set up a time and place that we're going to do a one-day training on a topic and kind of advertise that to a whole region of places. So we're going to launch our first one here in Minneapolis in the spring.
Excellent.
So, and the idea of that one is going to be focused on humanist celebrancy. So in training humanist celebrants, but we're going to look at, what are the topics that people are looking for, and where in the country are people looking for training, and where we can get kind of that critical mass of people that are interested in doing that. We're going to start to do that too. And then finally, another way to employ these completely online courses is we're looking at developing study guides so that people can take them to a local chapter or group and have the online course component and the online materials, but do it in person amongst their own group. So that idea that you can learn in person with each other, but you don't need to do all the research to develop a course. Like, that's the part that we're really wanting to take on for people.
And that way you don't have to have that commitment for an entire course. You can show up for a single lecture that you might have more of an interest in. Kevin, I know you are a graduate yourself of the Humanist Institute.
I am.
Tell me a little bit about what how you found it. What drove you to participate in the program, and what was your goal when you started, and how has your goal changed now that you're finished?
Yeah.
Maybe it hasn't changed.
It has actually quite a bit. So I am a member of a local congregation within Unitarian Universalism called First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis. And that is officially, they are recognized as a humanist congregation within Unitarian Universalism. And I found that congregation, that was part of the step to get there. And I was talking to the minister at the time, the Reverend Dr. Kendall Gibbons, about kind of what I was doing here. You know, I had found this humanist congregation, I was meeting people, it was interesting, but I wanted more. I wanted to go deeper, and I wanted to really understand the history, and I wanted to learn more about kind of what was going on both locally and nationally. And at the time, she was a dean of the Humanist Institute as well. And she said, I think you're a candidate for this program. I think you should really look at this. So she kind of planted that bug in my ear, and I started thinking about it, and eventually kind of jumped in and did the program. And at that point, the program was a 3-year program. So you did 3 short sessions a year for 3 years. It totals up to be about the same amount of time. It's just more spread out. And I really enjoyed that program. And my goal going in was really deepening my identity as a humanist. It was this one area of my life that I didn't have growing up. I hadn't really thought about during college. So I was a young adult trying to figure this out and wanting to go deep around that topic. And the program definitely did that. I mean, that's really what the program was designed to do. Kind of the piece that I wasn't expecting was I developed a national network of colleagues that are working all over the country at a variety of levels, from local to national organizations, and really found a passion for doing the work within the movement, which wasn't my goal. My goal was really personal, really wanting to learn for me and really wanting to understand myself better. And what I found was a career, and that was not the goal at all. So I'm working now on developing myself more as a leader, both with that program experience and now professionally on staff, and then looking at potentially doing seminary as well as a humanist.
That brings up a hot topic within the atheist community. Do you believe that an atheist can be religious? You identified yourself as someone who is a part of a religious congregation. Do you feel like there's a conflict with those two concepts?
I don't at all. I think that for a lot of people that there's a linguistic barrier in when you start talking about religion or spirituality or things like that. And I think that there are definitely some big differences for people theologically, but as far as the ability to participate in a community, that's really what you're talking about with many religions. And I think of it more as forming intentional community is kind of the phrase that I use. And when you really are thinking about why you're together, why you're grouping people together that otherwise wouldn't meet, they're not familial, they're not related, they don't live together oftentimes or near each other. Especially in a Unitarian Universalist congregation or our local atheist and humanist groups. Like they're coming from a fairly large geographic area.
That's right.
And they work in very different industries. So why are you coming together? What is that all about? And how do you think about that? And why do you do that? And put a lot of effort towards it, and perhaps money and time as well. So it's really that idea of forming intentional community that I think is completely works within a non-theist identity. I think when it starts to have more and more of the trappings of traditional Christian Protestant religion, that I think that people start to have more resistance towards it. And I think it's really what's your comfort level there. And I think now, especially in where we're at as a movement, there's a variety of options, which that hasn't always been the case either. I think here in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, we've had a long history of having several large groups and small groups and things like that, but that's not the case nationally for sure. Right. And depending on where you are at in the country or the world, it's a very different ballgame. So I think that now we have this ability you can kind of self-select. Oh, I want the more casual group, or I want a group it's a book club. That's what I'm there for. It's a debate group. That's what I'm there for. Or is it a group that does social justice and service work? Or is it a place where I go and there is a professional staff and a person that's there talking from the stage or the pulpit, and like there's a Sunday morning experience and religious education, like all of that around this idea that you're doing this to form meaningful community for people and for people to go deeper with themselves. but that doesn't need to involve God. And I think that's kind of the piece that's been around for a very long time. First Unitarian Society is over 125 years old, for instance. But it's something that I think is becoming people are becoming more and more aware of in popular culture. So I think that's kind of the piece where people are now more like, oh, that is a possibility. And I don't think it always has been. And I think for a long time, people used other words to talk about it. So, and I think now people are more explicit about what it is.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that. I was thinking as you were talking that sometimes the Unitarian Universalist ritual on Sunday mornings may resemble the new concept called the Sunday Assembly. Are you familiar with that? And
a little bit.
Is there any compare and contrast? I know in Minneapolis or the Twin Cities, we are thinking about building a Sunday Assembly, but what do you think the Unitarian Universalist community has that maybe the Sunday Assembly group doesn't have? Maybe there isn't anything, but have you thought about that? Do you think that movement is encroaching on humanism within the Unitarian Universalist tradition? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, one thing that I think that many Unitarian Universalist congregations has that this new movement doesn't is buildings, frankly. Like having that infrastructure in place. Often
You're right.
Professional staff at some level, whether that be very part-time or several, depending on the size of the congregation. So there's that. There's kind of that infrastructure piece that, and often a long history. Many of our congregations are very old. Like I said, mine's 125 years old. First Universalist Church down the street is over 150 years old. So they've been around. They know how to do this thing called community. They've been doing it for a time, and they're often very, very open places. So I think that they're also natural partners in this. So I think that there might be this sense of competition going on, or kind of we've already thought of that. Why are you doing this? From some people, but I do think that it's a really interesting concept, and it's this idea that it's coming up organically. So clearly, some of these people's needs aren't being met, or they don't know about Unitarian Universalism. So I think by having these two programs happen in either the same places or in partnership in some way, whether it's same leadership or we've got members of both groups coming together, I think that's kind of where you'll kind of find where maybe there's this new energy happening, and you've got the space and the experience of doing this for a few years happening, and I think that there might be some natural programming, because I think that there's plenty of people out there that could be a part of both programs or one or the other.
That synergy can really build within both groups and make better organizations out of both.
Right, and we've had in the Twin Cities, I think is a good example. We have 3 or maybe 4 now more fairly large groups that have a long history working within humanism and atheism.
That's right.
And they've all coexisted for decades and aren't going anywhere and have a lot of different programming. And I think that they exist for a reason, whether that be a linguistic label one, that I just like this label, I don't want that label, or they're actually doing very different programming and stuff like that. So I think that the Sunday Assembly movement coming on the scene might kind of make everyone look around a little bit more and think about, oh, okay, how do we partner better? How do we do large humanist, non-theist, atheist community better and serve more people?
Very good, very good. Kind of getting the conversation back to the Humanist Institute, I want to kind of get some information from you and give our audience some insight on if there's anything on the horizon at the Humanist Institute in terms of, you mentioned the Humanist Celebrant programming that's going to be happening here in Minneapolis, but any hopes and dreams? Like if you had a magic wand, what would you like to see the Humanists do in the future?
Well, one is very practical. It's happening for sure. Like I said, our program recently changed to this 3 9-day session model. So in 18 months, about 18 months, you're done with our program instead of 3 years. So it's better for, I think, working professionals that want to get in, get out, get the experience, get the knowledge. And our pilot of that program is all happening here in Minneapolis.
Oh,
so I
really?
think that that's an amazing opportunity for our local community to not have those extra travel costs of having to fly around the country. So that's one.
Is this really a hub of humanism
in
in
It's
Minneapolis?
a long
Do you feel,
time.
how do we compare nationally? Is this really a stronghold?
Well, per capita, I would say we've got more members of our organizations than a lot of other parts of the country. And then for the Humanist Institute, I think it's going to be a really interesting time to kind of reconnect to where our roots have been. Our office or our staff have been located here for a number of years, and kind of reaching out to the local community that we've been a part of, that both our executive director, Kristen Wintermute, and myself have been a part of for years. And now our program will be happening here. And then long term, we're really looking at being truly a national organization. We always have been. Our classes have happened nationally, our board has been national, and our students have been national, but really moving our program around the country, and with these regional programs and where we do these 9-day sessions for each class, looking at are we housed at Saybrook, and do we have other university partners down the road that we can kind of work with? Do we partner with a seminary and have a humanist seminary program? Where do we go from here is really exciting, I think. And how do we develop perhaps multiple graduate degrees? We've kind of been, I would say, a general leadership development program for the entire humanist movement. And I think that's an important part of our history, and it's one that we don't want to lose. But are there then some specialties? Like, you do the first half, you do your generals of all these different humanist types of leadership, and then do you specialize? Do you look at becoming a humanist chaplain, or do you look at becoming a humanist counselor, or do you look at being a humanist executive director? So kind of like an MBA nonprofit management track. How do we really look at what are we doing to professionalize the movement and really develop those leaders that can take on those paid positions or volunteer positions and do more than we've done in the past?
It's really exciting. Thank you for sharing all this information with the Humanist Institute. I'm going to change gears a little bit. Talk about your other professional life. You're currently on staff at Hamline University. And you and I have talked in the past, over this last year, about a really innovative program developing some humanist leadership in a connection with Harvard University. Give me the details and share with our audience about what's happening at Hamline and how does that relate to promoting atheism and humanism in our community.
Yeah, so I'm on staff in our Development and Alumni Relations Department. I'm a 2007 alum of Hamline, and you're also an alum of Hamline.
2002.
And I'm on staff there in the role of as a communications coordinator for my division. But the work that I've been able to do on campus as a volunteer and as an advisor has been really exciting, and it's a really open environment for that sort of stuff. We're encouraged to get involved in the Hamline community and give back in other ways besides just what we're paid there, what we're there to do for our salary. So one of the pieces of that, I've been working quite a bit with our chaplain, the Reverend Nancy Victor Bankerud, who is a Methodist minister, and Hamline's a Methodist affiliated school, but she's very, very open to the idea of serving our entire student body. And really, how does the chaplain's office and that is housed within what we call the Wesley Center. So, and how does that programming serve as many of our students and our community as possible? And as we were talking, we brought in Chris Stedman from the humanist community at Harvard to talk about his book, Atheist, and to talk about his work that he's doing there, and what humanist chaplaincy looks like and what humanist community looks like in a college environment. And from there, it sparked a whole series of book discussion groups that I helped lead and select and kind of held space for, so that we could have a group of people come together, and those groups included undergraduate students, graduate students, faculty, and staff, all talking about that. And from there, students got really excited and they really wanted to do more. So this past academic year, a secular student alliance formed at Hamline, and it's called the Hamline Secular Student Alliance. So we may not be very inventive with our naming, but it's at least descriptive. And then within the Wesley Center, we've developed this program based off of Chris Stedman's work at the humanist community at Harvard. He named it Values in Action. And what this is it's at Harvard, it's an interfaith program that the humanists in their community do with faith traditions, social justice work, and really doing that. And part of it's an outreach and to build understanding between these different communities while doing this other work. The way Hamline's kind of been doing it is that we have a lot of interfaith programming already at Hamline, and really we're using the Values in Action as a place for humanists, secularists, non-traditional, non-spiritual students to have a program to access within the Wesley Center. So it's this idea that there's a space there that isn't necessarily just for humanists, but is definitely a place that they can claim as their own, and like, oh yeah, that's my thing, and go and do that, and then from there partner with various community organizations outside of Hamline to do social justice work and like community work. So so the goals are, I think, very similar, but their approaches are a little bit different because our university environment is very different from Harvard's. So it's kind of looking at how do we do that.
Has there been any pushback from faculty or staff at Hamline or the student body?
There actually hasn't been.
Excellent.
It's been amazing. So we've got several religion professors that are excited about it and have been a part of the book discussions because that's their thing. Mm-hmm. They were obviously passionate about this topic. Mm-hmm. And like I said, the chaplain at Hamline has been amazingly supportive, to the point of hiring a student worker to help us coordinate this work, and really being supportive of her staff's time, being partially on this topic and really working for getting as many students served as possible that are part of the Hamline community.
I'm really proud of Hamline for taking a leap. This sounds like a really innovative approach to chaplaincy, mm-hmm. and religious life in mm-hmm. universities. I had an excellent experience as a student at Hamline, and I'm really proud that they are willing to take this leap. It's so innovative, and I'm so excited to see how mm-hmm. this grows. In our final minute, I just wanted to thank you, Kevin, for being a part of this program, and I really enjoyed getting to talk with you, and ongoing conversations will continue to happen. Minnesota Atheists is a firm supporter of the Humanist Institute, and we really want to build bridges and continue the dialogue. So in our final moments, I'm going to let our audience know that Minnesota Atheist is here. Please check us out on the web and participate in our community at whatever level you choose. And I'm glad to be a part of this program. My name is Jill Carlson, and I'm on the board of Minnesota Atheists. Thank you.